Okie dokie. For today, chapter 4, continuing from where we had left off. Chapter 4, the Despisers of the Body. So, I'd say from this chapter, I'll probably start off by covering the last 7 paragraphs, very short paragraphs, about 30, at most 30 sentences, at least 24 sentences long. And, how will I start this off? The Despisers of the Bodies don't necessarily seem to... They perhaps can't act as a position of preaching, but they seem to be more of a mode of thought, or acceptance of a state of thought, or an acceptance of a thought. And this comes mostly from the sense of either you do not accept the fact because you dislike the truth, or you feel wicked, or you feel horrible, you feel basically upset due to the fact that you know the truth is the way it is. And in this case, the despisers of the body are the people who despise the body and its limitations of its reality. But I will start by reading the sentences I said I would. This thing is 1, 2, 2.5 pages, not a lot of text. I'll start. Thyself laugheth at thine ego. Okay, I'll start off again. Thyself laugheth at thine ego. Thine is thy. It's another way of saying thy. So thyself laugheth at thy ego, and its proud prancings. Prancings means like jumping about. It's what a horse. It's a word for what the horses do when they kind of like walk about raising their legs. What are these prancings and flights of thoughts unto me? It saith to itself, a byway to my purpose. I am the leading string of the ego and the promoter of its notions. So this is what the despiser of the body wants to think, that he is a byway, that these thoughts coming onto him, there's a byway to him, there's a path, a cord, a connection, a tether of thought. This being majoritively the ego and self, or not self, soul. The ego is something that most people accept to exist as a physical thing, but the soul tends to exist in a supernatural thing. And when we go backwards into the earlier points in the text, it talks about how the ego is is an outcome of a self, or something that the self had created from itself, and that the body, that all we are is the body and nothing more. The self saith unto the ego, feel pain, and thereupon it suffereth, and seeketh how it may put an end thereto. And for that very purpose, it is meant to think. The self, like for an example, you prick your finger, and yourself tells your ego, into a sense, to stimulate pain, and therefore you stimulate pain, and it thinks of how it can end this pain. Remove your finger from the fire. The self saith unto the ego, feel pleasure. Thereupon it rejoiceth, and seeketh how it may oftentimes rejoice. And for that very purpose it is meant to think. How can you experience more pleasure, basically? This is what the self wishes, tells the ego. Ego experiences pleasure, has a basically fancy for it now, and wishes to seek more of it. To the despisers of the body I will speak a word, that thy despise is caused by their esteem. Their esteem means a respect and admiration for something, in a sense. What is that? And in a sense, when you say esteem, when you say anything, you can tend to mean its full value or its negative value. In a sense, its lack of. I can say esteem, your esteem, but I can mean your esteem is high and your esteem is low. I need to somewhat specify. He kind of continues on to this point. What is that created esteeming and despising, and worth and will? Worth and will as in the worth of objects, the will of life, somewhat of a thing. You'll get it. The creating self created for itself, esteeming and despising. It created for itself joy and woe. The creating body created for itself spirit, as a hand to its will. Even in your folly and despising, ye each serve yourself. I'll say that again. Even in your folly and despising, ye each serve yourself. Ye despisers of the body, I tell you, your very self wanteth to die, and turneth away from life. So this is where I kind of made the previous statement of people despise this fact of body and limitations of their ability to create or be a part of something bigger. Therefore, they begin to despise the body. No longer can yourself do that which it desireth the most, create beyond itself. That is what it desireth the most. That is all its fervor. That is all that is fervor. But it is now too late to do so. So yourself wisheth to succumb. Succumb means such as yield or to accept and not to put up a fight. But it is now too late to do so. Yourself wishes to succumb, ye despisers of the body, to succumb, to wisheth yourself. So wisheth yourself. And therefore have ye become despisers of the body, for ye can no longer create beyond yourself. And therefore are ye now angry with life and with the earth. An unconscious envy is in this sidelong look of your content. When he says, and therefore are ye now angry with life and the body and the earth, it tends to mean you're upset with the body, you're upset with the limitations of life and the earth of what it is around you. There's nothing more. This is very much like the chapter before, the backwards. That's why at the end of the backwardsman he has pointed out their similarities. I go not your way. This is Zarathustra speaking of how he feels about despisers of the body. I go not your way, ye despisers of the body. You are not a bridge for me to the Superman. Basically, this is why he kind of says at the beginning of this chapter, he will say that to the despisers of the body I will speak my word. I wish them neither to learn afresh nor teach anew, but only to bid farewell to their own bodies, and thus be dumb. I don't necessarily get why he wants them to be dumb. I think what he means by the sense is to drop the ego and to hear the words, and not to do anything else besides to accept this. But he does go in the beginning of somewhat saying that there's nothing much we can do, I think. Body am I and soul, so saith the child. Okay, so this is majority. Nothing really off the front pages. He mentions the awakened one and the knowing one, and that this person would say that body am I entirely and nothing more, and the soul is only the name of something inside the body. The body is a big sagacity being wisdom, a plurality with one sense. This is, I think, very interesting. A plurality with one sense. One sense somewhat meaning the center of experience, but yourself is a plurality. It is almost like we are all experiencing a level of multi-personality disorder, or disconnect between every part of our conscious or knowing, and all that kind of stuff. Yet we all experience one sense, and one intake. A war and peace, a flock and a shepherd. A flock and a shepherd, somewhat meaning leading hand, and the followers of that leading hand for yourself. He goes into saying that the spirit and the ego are playthings. The ego saith, thou art thou proud of that word, but the great thing is which thou unwilling to believe is thy body with its big sagacity. It saith not ego, but doth it. In this sense, I think this kind of just more or less points out that the ego itself isn't something that outlines and is like a truth, but it does ego. It commits actions which follow under the categorization of ego, but isn't a centered thing, which is that ego. And in this sense, I kind of think it's like when it goes to when you look at the spirit, a spirit Your spirit somewhat does exist as a process and a general thing that many things in yourself causes the sense being the polarity and one sense with one sense experiences. Your polarity is causing this. What is the sense feeleth, what the spirit discerneth, hath never its end in itself, but sense and spirit would fain persuade thee that thy are the end of all things, so vain art thou. Someone saying that the ego and the sense are, was it sense and the spirit are the ends, like we are all. In its sense, it is not the end to itself, it is the end, it is a part of all a part of us. Then he goes and says, instruments and stuff are playthings. Behind thy thoughts and feelings, my brother, there is a mighty Lord. As an unknown sage, it is called self. It dwelleth in the body, it is thy body. That is really all I think. I could basically just finish the rest of the chapter, but and that's somewhat all I've really done here, is just recite the whole chapter. But I think ultimately this kind of chapter 4, the Despisers of the Body, has spoken on behalf of the idea that the esteem, basically self, and all that are creations and experiences, different, as he says, are a polarity with one sense. My eyes, my ears, my thoughts, my brain, everything that I am, the sense I get from thought, the sense I get from the outcome of thought, which was the outcome of multiple parts of my brain or multiple parts of my existence coming together to create such thing. Experiences through one sense, therefore it feels like it's a one-way bypath. This is me, of course, deducing from this text. Very much possibly wrong, but that is what I think he has said, and I'll put it into that. Ultimately, I guess in the sense, you'd want to not be a despiser of the body, but accepting of the body. And like he has said at the end of this thing, is more up at the end of chapter 3 of the Backwards Men, he says, more uprightly and purely speaketh the healthy body, perfect and square built, and it speaketh of the meaning of the earth. Ideally, perhaps we speak the meaning of the earth and ourselves in a more upright manner, with more respect for ourselves, with a head held up high to look around for ourselves. But that is the end of what this thing is. Next chapter is Joy and Passions. I think this is one of my favorite chapters. Was it? I think it was chapter 7. But this is next chapter, chapter 5, Joy and Passions. See you then.